Hi, everyone. I'm Elaine Quijano. It's good to be with you. Thank you for joining us. President Biden is calling on New York Governor Andrew Cuomo to resign following a scathing report saying he sexually harassed multiple women. Over 5 months, the state attorney general's office interviewed 179 witnesses and reviewed tens of thousands of documents. 11 women are accusing the governor of unwanted kissing, groping, and inappropriate comments. In a pre-recorded video message, Governor Cuomo denied the findings, saying, quote, "The facts are much different than what has been portrayed." CBS News national correspondent Jericka Duncan begins our coverage from New York's Capitol.
Elaine, when we stood here in front of the state capitol back in March, many lawmakers in Albany said they wanted to wait for the results of that investigation before they took a position on whether the governor should go. Well, tonight, leaders within the assembly said they've lost confidence in the governor and he can no longer remain in office. The long-awaited findings of the independent investigation are damning. The report says Governor Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed multiple women and violated federal and state laws.
I believe women, and I believe these 11 women.
The office culture in Governor Cuomo's executive chamber is pointedly described as toxic, hostile, abusive, and vindictive.
Governor Cuomo sexually harassed multiple women by engaging in unwanted groping, kisses, hugging, and by making inappropriate comments.
For nearly 5 months, the independent task force interviewed 179 individuals, including 11 women who say they were made uncomfortable and humiliated by Cuomo.
Some suffered through unwanted touching and grabbing of their most intimate body parts. Others suffered through repeated, offensive, sexually suggestive, or gender-based comments.
The 165-page report lays out a pattern of substantiated and corroborated incidents in painstaking detail, including new allegations Cuomo sexually harassed a female state trooper on his security detail, saying Cuomo ran his hand or fingers across her stomach, her back, and kissed her on the cheek. In late 2020, another woman identified as Executive Assistant Number 1 was subjected to intimate hugs, kisses on the cheeks and lips, and on one occasion, the governor reached under her blouse and grabbed her breast. Today, Cuomo remained defiant, releasing a taped statement.
That I never touched anyone inappropriately or made inappropriate sexual advances. That is just not who I am.
Charlotte Bennett was a former aide. Last year, as the governor and Bennett discussed her experience as a sexual assault survivor, Cuomo kept repeating, you were raped and abused and assaulted, making her feel as if he was testing her.
I have heard Charlotte and her lawyer, and I understand what they are saying. But they read into comments that I made and draw inferences that I never meant.
Now, the political pressure on Cuomo is building.
And if he doesn't resign, do you believe he should be impeached and removed from office?
Let's take one thing at a time here. I think he should resign.
And he's using a photo of you embracing him in his self-defense to say that these are commonplace kind of embraces that he made and the allegations against him. Do you condone that?
I'm sure there are some embraces that were totally innocent. But apparently the Attorney General decided there were things that weren't.
And tonight, the entire New York congressional delegation is calling on Cuomo to resign.
I continue to believe the governor should resign.
The Albany District Attorney's Office is already conducting a criminal investigation into Cuomo. Tonight, the DA said anyone accusing the governor of sexual misconduct should contact his office. Elaine?
Jericka Duncan, thank you. Charlotte Bennett is one of 11 accusers the Attorney General's office found credible. The former aide claims Governor Cuomo asked her inappropriate questions about her sex life and relationships. In an exclusive interview, CBS Evening news anchor and managing editor Norah O'Donnell asked Bennett what she makes of the governor's response.
Charlotte, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
The New York Attorney General said multiple times today that she believes you and the other women mentioned in this report. What does that mean to you?
Today was so validating and really emotional, and I feel vindicated. It's been a long day, but I'm proud to be a New Yorker right now.
The governor admitted that he asked you questions that he doesn't normally ask people because you told him you're a survivor of sexual assault. Do you think he's gaslighting you?
Absolutely. He's trying to justify himself by making me out to be someone who can't tell the difference between sexual harassment and mentorship. We have a report, we have the facts. The governor broke federal and state law when he sexually harassed me and current and former staffers. And if he's not willing to step down, then we have a responsibility to act and impeach him. He sexually harassed me. I am not confused. It is not confusing. I am living in reality, and it's sad to see that he's not.
And at one point, he said that he was trying to help you work through a difficult time. Did that seem like that was his intention?
No. His intention was trying to sleep with me.
The governor today blamed generational or cultural perspectives for the way he made jokes and the comments that he makes. Was what the governor did a generational misunderstanding?
Publicly, he would rather play dumb. Privately, he knows that he sexually harassed staffers. And I think it's easier to explain his behavior publicly by saying there was some misunderstanding.
The governor said today that he accepts responsibility and that he's making changes. Do you believe him?
Accepting responsibility means stepping down. So I don't believe him, and I don't want an apology. It's not necessary. It's fake. And his propaganda video was not only uncomfortable and inappropriate, but downright weird and unnecessary.
Why do you call it a propaganda video?
Because it's not about anything other than protecting him and his office. It is not protecting New York. He is not speaking for New Yorkers. He is not trying to do anything other than maintain the power that he has currently.
What do you think is the effect of the governor's behavior, both in the past and then by the comments that he made today?
He is normalizing not only victim blaming, but sexual harassment. He is saying that women come forward with their stories and we don't need to take it seriously. It's simply a circus act at this point.
You actually think his comments are dangerous?
I think his comments are dangerous. I think it sends a message to New Yorkers that sexual harassment is not important, that it is not dangerous. It is. It is important, and it's also just plain illegal.
For more on this, I want to bring in Jessica Levinson. She's a CBS News legal contributor and a professor at Loyola Law School. Hi there, Jessica. So as we heard, Charlotte Bennett said the governor is painting a picture of, quote, someone who can't tell the difference between sexual harassment and mentorship. What is your assessment of how the governor has been defending himself against these allegations?
Well, I think his defense has been that there's no defense like a good offense. And in watching that press conference, it was like watching an alternate reality. But this is not a situation of parallel universes. These two things cannot be true. You cannot believe Charlotte Bennett. You cannot believe this 165-page report where they interviewed 179 people, where 11 women came forward, and also believe Governor Cuomo. These two things just do not match up. They can't be consistent. And I think Governor Cuomo's defense has been, one, it didn't happen, and two, even if stuff happened, as we just heard in that interview, well, I'm old and the sands has shifted from under my feet, so things might have been okay now and they're not before and they're not okay now, or, well, I'm just too friendly, I'm just too Italian, it's cultural. I was just trying to help her work through a problem. I think that's what we've seen in terms of his defense. And, whether or not that will be his defense in a courtroom remains to be seen. But it is a fairly typical defense. He goes on the offense. He's blaming the victims. I think in talking about her and her experience with sexual assault, he tried to, frankly, make her look like she was damaged and she didn't know what she was talking about. I think that was the strategy here.
Jessica, on this report from the New York Attorney General, why do you think her office is not seeking criminal charges against Governor Cuomo? And what legal options are on the table right now?
Yeah, really interesting that she did not herself seek criminal charges. What she said is this was a civil investigation and our work here is done. Now, what does that mean in terms of, you asked me what the options are? The options going forward are, legally speaking, that these specific accusers, the women who are the victims in the report, can come forward and say, look at this report. and I'm going to sue in a civil case. So a civil case would mean that you would ask for monetary damages. Then separately, what we've already seen is that there's a separate track for criminal charges, where already the Albany district attorney has asked for this report, has asked for information, and that would indicate that there's at least some interest in seeing if, given an independent look, this would rise to the level of criminal violations. And you could also see both of those tracks. I mean, there's nothing to rule out that you could be sued in civil cases, and you could also face criminal charges. And frankly, I expect that that's the most likely path here.
And Jessica, against that backdrop, New York Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie says members of the Assembly will look to conclude its impeachment investigation into Governor Cuomo as quickly as possible. That probe was launched earlier this year. Can you walk us through what impeachment proceedings would look like in the state of New York?
Yes, we know very broadly what they would look like, but the good news for New Yorkers is that the impeachment doesn't happen a lot. You don't want a situation where you're electing officials and they engage in behavior that is potentially impeachable. So we don't know in New York exactly what an impeachable offense is, but we know what the process looks like. So first, the Assembly, the lower house in New York, would have to vote by a simple majority of its 150 members to find that, in fact, Governor Cuomo should be impeached. And then they refer that not just to the New York Senate, which is kind of what we're used to on the federal level, that Congress then refers the impeachment proceedings to the Senate. It would be referred to the entire New York Senate, except the Speaker of the Senate, except the leader of the Senate, because that person is second in line, and it would be viewed that they would have a conflict of interest, but also the entire New York Court of Appeals, which is New York's highest court. It's really New York's Supreme Court. So you would have judges and the Senate. I think that would be about 67 people, and you would need a supermajority of that group then to decide that Governor Cuomo should be impeached. So that also looks like what we're used to on the federal level: simple majority in the House and then supermajority in the Senate. Again, big difference being here that you're adding in judges with state senators.
So in addition to all of that, the Albany County District Attorney's Office now says it will be requesting investigative materials obtained by the Attorney General's office. Back in March, a groping allegation was reported to the Albany Police Department. Jessica, what might this signal for what's to come?
Nothing good for Governor Cuomo. You don't want the district attorney's office to be asking for additional information from the New York Attorney General. And it shows that there's a level of seriousness here. And frankly, if you look at the report and how long it is and how meticulous it is, and just the numbers behind it, the months that it took to put this report together, the number of people who it took to put together, the number of people who were interviewed, who had to come forward, who came forward with corroborating evidence, it's not surprising that at least one local prosecutor is saying, this is of interest to us, and this might rise to the level of a criminal violation. And the question will be whether or not other local prosecutors come forward.
So accuser Charlotte Bennett also backed up the report's findings of a toxic and hostile work environment inside Mr. Cuomo's executive chamber. What potential legal consequences could come as a result of that?
Yeah, well, there could be, again, charges of sexual harassment that are brought by the individual accusers. And then there's also this additional charge here that kind of falls broadly under the umbrella of this toxic work environment, that it wasn't just toxic, as if this isn't enough, with respect to the allegations of sexual harassment, but there's also an allegation here for retaliation, that somebody actually spoke out and they said, we're taking action against you for speaking out. That would be obviously related, but separate and apart. So you could also see charges or claims brought based on retaliation. That goes more to somebody's ability to serve as a public official, or I should say it additionally goes to somebody's ability to serve as a public official. So I think we're looking at a world of potential legal exposure for Governor Cuomo, and then, of course, political pressure to step down and potentially political proceedings in the form of these impeachment proceedings, which I think there's every chance that they go forward. And again, none of these are mutually exclusive. You could be facing all of these at the same time.
A lot of fast-moving developments. Jessica Levinson for us. Jessica, thank you very much.
Thank you.